Hey there everybody, I'm back with another update. We are going to push onwards with some dwarf fortressings. It's a bit delayed, but you know what? It's better that I get them out there than, you know, let the let the playthrough fall apart. So we will bust out a little bit of the fortressing. Last time we left off kind of with a dwarf once again working on some sort of awesome craft production, and kind of started off totally forgetting about that because I was like, well, you know what, I have some projects that still need to be done, so I started off by actually working on them. And then I kind of realized that, well, I didn't realize it until it popped up, and suddenly I was like, oh yeah, there's that thing that happened. And hey, we make a gold flute. Eulogil, I believe is his name. I don't quote me on it. But it actually does turn out to be a pretty decent artifact object, I guess, for something that's, you know, not made out of some ridiculous material. That's pretty good, 78,000 dwarf bucks. So, I kind of question the playability of a gold flute that menaces with any spikes at all, but it wouldn't be very dwarfy if it, you know, didn't menace something. So, we have, well, our projects, we are still kind of digging to kind of make housing for the dwarves that we have, because we have a lot of dwarves without housing at the moment. It's kind of one of the drawbacks of getting a lot of folks in your big waves and such. And now I have some cat butt in my face, so I'm making recording difficult. But right here, I'm kind of working towards my goal of kind of cutting off the slopes themselves, so that there's not a lot of invasions coming down from areas that I'm not prepared for. And you really need to move, cat. Thank you. So, while I'm doing this, I start to notice that, you know, I really could use some metal equipment. None of my military is actually wearing anything but the starting gear they came with, and those iron axes I made last time around. I need more than that. And I realized, well, I've got some materials laying around. I need to figure out what all I can make and what all I can smelt down. So I noticed I do have a decent amount of logs, so I need to make some charcoal so I can start smelting stuff down. I don't know how much actually. That's kind of one of the things that does kind of bite about the game, is that it really doesn't tell you specifically like how many bars an object takes in the menu system. So you kind of have to hope you have the right amount of materials, or you can do the other thing and just, you know, check out a wiki and constantly look at it for that kind of information. But when I'm recording these, I usually kind of forget to check those things at the time. I kind of tend to go back and read wikis and stuff on my off time while I'm just kind of thinking about ideas and such. But the mining area we're working out here is going to be the next part of the fortress, essentially the gate down to the lower portion, because inevitably we're going to hit some dangers down below us, and I do kind of need to set up a location for the next set of dwarves. I'm going to have more than one military group. It's just not going to work out having only one group of 10 dwarves to defend the entire fortress. So that's going to be our next barracks / training area / gate to the lower areas of the dungeon. The caverns and such. I haven't quite laid out exactly where I want to put the nobles at. But at some point we're gonna deal with nobles, and we're gonna have to have some sort of location for them. And it'll probably be on this floor here, but I'm kind of looking around still to figure out where I want to put them. I might actually have a separate cave system for them entirely. So we're cutting out more ramps because our first set of ramps is gone. And I'm kind of just going ahead and cutting out all the ramps entirely that I'm not going to end up using, so... Or, you know, all the ramps except for those ones at the northern end, because that's going to be where our main, like, entrance way to the base is going to be at. Once we get everything ironed out as far as the base goes, we will have that be our entrance to the upper areas, and then that small area, well, no, it's actually a rather large entrance there at the walls to the right side of the screen. But that'll get ironed out once we get a proper elevating drawbridge type situation going on. And our work still goes on. Okay, so now we run into this situation where I'm kind of banging my head against the wall already, because I already have so many dwarves that kind of need to not be here. We have a lot of extras and not a lot of room for them. Then I remember, hey, I just started work on that new barracks. So, hey, we're going to set up a new squad. And who's going to head up the squad? Well, it's going to be Nerdy Kid, because I believe he's actually still fairly well skilled and decently geared enough to where he can actually probably be the best person for the leadership of the second squad. So we'll have Rob the Gamer as one militia commander, and Nerdy Kid will be the other. Now, I did kind of keep this guy, I did pause, leave that one in there for the note that he is actually a decent surgeon, so the rest of the wave of migrants that came in all got put into the military, and we'll hopefully have a decent group of dwarves training away to make sure our fortress is running at peak efficiency defense-wise. However, of course, like I said earlier, we still do need to get some equipment for these people, because we hardly have any weapons, and we definitely don't have any armor worth, strapping onto the dwarves at the moment. So that's kind of one of the three things that we're going to be working a lot with as far as the fortress goes. Besides setting up the defenses, like the physical walls and such, we're also going to be working a lot with getting charcoal and working on iron weapons and armor. So the third thing is kind of be digging downwards. I do need to explore a bit and find some more materials. And after that wave showed up, I started noticing the animal has grown messages, and I was like, oh hey, I need to make sure I move these guys into the pasture before we start having random animal deaths in the middle of the Great Hall because animals are stupid. So that's one of the things I often forget to do, so I just kind of left it in there because I also noticed that I had a bunch of donkeys laying around. Unfortunately, all these donkeys are male and not going to help us in our breeding of other animals programs. Because while it's great that we have a decent food supply on hand with turkeys, it isn't what I would consider the most beneficial to our dwarves. Like I said, there's not really seems to be bones for a lot of the practice weaponry and such, as well as crafting and whatnot from the poultry as there is with larger animals. So something I would always prefer to work with. And after that wave, I start to iron out more. This like I said, this is kind of just a standard housing block. It's nothing fancy, nothing interesting really. It's just kind of efficient enough to where I can get a decent amount of dwarves into a small space and give them, you know, at least a comfortable area to put their stuff and all that. Once, of course, I actually have the stuff to put in there, that is, but we're still working on that part. We will get there. Once I get the weaponry situation kind of ironed out a bit more, I will start making more of the luxury items like chests and cabinets and such for the various dwarf rooms. Because I kind of do need to work on that stuff for whenever we do end up getting nobles. So I kind of happened to brush down through here and notice that these farming plots are empty. And that is because, well, all the seeds that we had for the funguses and such, well, are gone because we've used them all. And all the seeds that we do have are for the outdoor, actual normal plant types. So I decided, well, it'd be kind of foolish to just leave a bunch of seeds laying around unused. And of course, it is more efficient just to, you know, hammer down nothing but, you know, plump helmets and mushrooms and such. But I think I've said it before and I'll say it again. I prefer the option of selection for the dwarves. I prefer being able to have a lot of different variety in the fortress, and that usually pays off better as far as, you know, meeting needs and hitting likes and dislikes for your dwarves. Gives them more options. And I kind of left this in here just briefly because I'll give 100 dwarf points to whoever can notice exactly what just happened from that last little bit of the farm upper area there. I just happened to have noticed it while I was doing the video editing, so I will have to take care of it first thing in the next video, the next time I sit down to record. And the last little bit I wanted to show off was this stockpile, and I goofed it up once earlier. I had actually set this stockpile well earlier in the video, and I couldn't figure out why exactly was, you know, what exactly was going wrong, because normally you set these custom stockpiles that you can get materials down to an area, and I wanted to get some of the necessities for the hospital down into a small stockpile specifically for the hospital, you know, workers. And I happened to set up this, you know, custom once before, and nothing was happening. I went to go tab over it again, and I noticed all the fields are empty again, and I got kind of confused. So I thought I'd just leave it on here just to show off exactly how to go about setting up sort of a hospital stockpile. You can actually break it down into multiple smaller ones, and it probably would pay off a bit better if you break it down, like, say you just wanted 2 or 3 buckets, instead of the pile getting a bunch of different buckets. You could make a small stockpile with only 2 spaces, and it would only get 2 buckets total. But I wanted to make sure I had a lot of different goods down here and available, and I thought I'd set it up once, and I didn't quite get it right the first time. So I figured I'd leave this in here as the second part because, well, I wanted to show you that we are actually going to have some stuff in the hospital. Now, as you'll see, the list here is quite large. We don't have a lot of those things at the moment. I keep hitting my mic like a moron, but I actually just noticed that, and at that time, that I was like, oh, hey, we don't have anybody to make soap, which in earlier Dwarf Fortresses was actually an entirely useless thing that was just kind of a flavor, sort of, hey, things can get cleaned up better with soap, and sometimes dwarves actually don't prefer, or, you know, actually prefer not living in filth and squalor all the time, so in this newer version, soap actually does have a purpose, and we kind of need some of it. And considering, well, we don't really have a lot of other fat to be used at the moment, but once we get to the next butchering harvest, which should be here shortly, we'll have some fat that we can use to make soap with. And as you noticed there on that last screen, or just a second ago, there was actually items starting to fill that stockpile, which is a good thing. And I kind of finished off by starting a little pathway off to the side here. As you'll notice, the dwarves are already starting to fill the plots of that farm up. And I kind of figured, you know, we might as well kind of connect the farm areas together. And that way I can have sort of a pathway going between this particular farm area and that one there. Just a small staircase to go up. Sometimes I actually will sink those into the ground, or sink the above ground farms into the ground. That way they actually are kind of still underground, and yet they count as above ground. But I kind of have not a lot of space to work with in this particular idea, so I kind of just left it this way. You can kind of see we're getting the, not quite finished yet, but we're getting close to having a workable second barracks area. That larger area will probably be our sort of our graveyard area slash statue party zone. We'll figure out something to do with it. And then we finish off the video with an elven caravan showing up, and we will have to trade for some things when that comes around. But until next time, folks, have a good one.